Welcome to Barrier Breakers, a podcast celebrating resilience and triumph over adversities. Expect raw, honest conversations filled with practical advice and life lessons. Now on to today's episode. Welcome back to part 2 with Lea Bradley.
Yeah, nothing happens by accident. I fully believe you're working with Harmony for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I believe you started working with them. You got news about your mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to stop for just a second. For the people, maybe there are some people listening that are thinking all these people that they've had on this show are they are breaking those barriers. They are rocking it. They're on the other side of this thing. And sure, everybody has room to grow and everybody's working, but these people nailed it. So if that's how you feel and you're but I'm not, I'm still broken. Hi, my name is Lea Bradley, and you're about to hear the broken part.
Let's pause for the.
You're about to hear the broken part.
Yeah.
So
before you go on, Lea, I want to say I looked directly at Gentry because he and I talk almost every day, and it's just we'll be having two separate conversations. And we're just both sharing our brokenness within a safe space between the both of us. Yeah. So I'm we're all still just broken humans.
And even some people just making it through the day is breaking that barrier, right? And so I just want people to know that. That is so real.
It's
so
actually
real.
It's not that we're not there. I think it's more of a mindset that we refuse to stay where we're at.
Mm-hmm. True.
Right. So there are situations, there are circumstances, everyone has those days, right?
Yeah.
And some days are more frequent than others.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just the ability to have and to be able to a space to share, to someone that can relate to something that you're going through or something that you've been through and realize that one, they're not alone. But two, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but such is life.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's not that it's this perfect persona that we went from drowning ourselves, in whatever to, walking in, on daisies, in clouds every day. But it's it's the mindset of refusing to give up on the journey because we know that there's value inside of us and we know that we have something that we can share and something that we can give. And it's just refusing to not be silent anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is one of those steps, a big step for me in that.
And I will say I had no clue about your mom having stage 4 breast cancer until you shared it.
Mm-hmm. Well, in fairness, it didn't happen very fast, but we learned about it very fast. So mom had, so 2007, I told y'all, 2007, she was first diagnosed. She just
what stage was she in 2007?
Really small.
Yeah.
It was really small.
1.
So they just removed the tumor. She did radiation and she started tamoxifen.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then 2010, it came back and she was let's be done. It was on the same side, her left side. But it wasn't on the right side, but she was I don't need them. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. She chose not to have reconstruction just because if there is a complication that could happen in a medical procedure or with a drug, it seemed to happen with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's just one of those people. Yeah. So she was I don't want to have to go through all of that and then have some crazy infection and have to. So she just chose to do prosthetics, in a prosthetic bra.
My mom remained flat too. Well, she got her left and she was I don't care. And I'm that's the kind of confidence I need in my life to just not care.
Well, she was also 60, over 60 at that. So,
yeah, my mom was 49.
Yeah, that's different. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Okay. Then so she had the full mastectomy in 2010. And then in 2019, it came back.
Mm-hmm.
And she found it if she would have had reconstruction, she would never have found it. Wow. Because people are how did she get breast cancer when she didn't have breasts? You have tissue on your ribs that's breast tissue.
Yeah.
You can't remove all of that because it's there to protect you. So she was able to see it and feel it almost immediately. So that was handled very quickly. At that point, she had been on tamoxifen for over 10 years. So they changed her to an aromatase inhibitor, which you probably know about, but for the
I'm
rest.
on anastrozole. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a different type of long-term, supposedly, to help your cancer incident be as low as possible. Okay.
Sure.
So, I hear people say things now like, well, like if cancer comes back 3 times or more, like it's going to be what takes you out. And I'm like, I mean, logically, I guess I know that, but I just didn't see that with my mom. Like she just was such a conqueror and she was making so many changes to her life. She was active and eating all the right things and purposely avoiding foods and other things that like are estrogen feeder, like just all the things. She was like doing all the right thing, got rid of plastic, like just whatever.
Doing all the
she
right
was
stuff
doing
she saw
all
on
the
the Facebook
things,
groups.
and so it just seemed like that would be it. Well, August of 2022, she was diagnosed with asthma and lost her voice, and her voice actually never came back. And so I think our whole family was kind of like, asthma, you don't forever lose your voice with asthma, do you?
Yeah.
Like, that's so weird. Okay. But we all, wanted it to be true. And my mom surely wanted it to be true. And so we just kind of went with it. And then she came February of 2023. She came for my son's birthday party, and that was unfortunately the last time that she was ever in Knoxville, but it was awesome, and she was great and healthy and good. She had a weird voice, but she was still my mom, helpful and all the amazing things. And so then she got, like early in March, she got the stomach bug. And then later in March, early April, she got COVID, and it never got better. So she was telling us as the family that she had long COVID. And I was just like, I mean, she was not able to go up and down stairs. She was like, there were like big, huge things that I just felt like, Mom, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I mean, so turns out that it was, she did in fact have COVID, but it was not long COVID. It was cancer that had spread to her lungs. She had cancer in her lungs and in her bones. And by the time we figured it out, it was way too late. So we learned about the cancer around June 19th. And I got to spend a long week. I spent like 4 or 5 days with her in the hospital there. And then when they got to go home is when I was comfortable to come back to Knoxville. And then we went away for the 4th of July weekend, which like killed me. All I wanted to do was be with my mom, but she threatened me. She was like, if you even think about coming to Knoxville, go have fun. Like, okay. So I go, I have fun, and I get back and she's back in the hospital. My sister is in school to be a nurse practitioner, and she went to check on my mom, and like, she was purple. Her lips were purple, and she was refusing to go to the hospital because she knew.
Yeah.
I think at that point she knew, and she didn't want to So I flew in my car up to Maryland, and it was just my sister Jody and I in the room when she told us. She started saying things like, get out a piece of paper. I want you to write down my obituary. And we're like, okay, but like, I just saw her in June, and she's like, we're going to fight this, and like all this, it's going to be good. So I'm like, what is she talking? I'm looking over at my sister, and I'm like writing stuff down, and I'm going, what? And she's like, I changed my mind. My mom ran a food bank out of our home for 33 years.
Wow.
And so she's like, I had plans to shut down the food bank, but I've changed my mind. Like, that's part of my legacy. I want you guys to continue that for me. And so I'm looking at Jody, and I just I see her. I see the shift in her. She switches from my sister to a medical professional.
Yes.
And she says, I need you to be real with me. What are you talking about? And then she said, like, I'm terminal. It's too far gone. It's spread. And I'm not going to be alive for much longer. And I just was like, first of all, what? Like, literally, I was here just a few weeks ago. And like, how are we here? How are we here?
So fast.
How are we here?
Regression.
Oh my gosh. So at that point, she says, I need you guys to tell your siblings. And I'm like, okay, all right. Because again, like my one sibling was just there the day before. She was just there the day before. And mom is saying stuff like, you know, I want to be here for you guys. And okay. So of course, my siblings were in complete. It's one of the 2 times in my life that I thought I had a panic attack for sure. Yeah, one time in high school when I lost a friend in a very tragic way, and then the other time was here, like couldn't breathe, dropped to my knees in the parking lot, you know, that kind of thing. Like, how do you tell your siblings that mom's dying, and that it's not gonna be pretty and it's not gonna be fun? Like, how do you do that? So we did, and we all got together that night, and strangely enough, we decided to just drink some wine and watch Is It Cake? That's how we coped. That's how we coped with it that night, because we knew, like, we're all going to the hospital tomorrow and it's about to get real, and let's just be together. And I mean, there were tears, there was hugging, and there was a lot of laughing and a lot of no way that's cake. So, you know, like we made the best of that night. I'm very grateful for that moment. And then the rest all happened very fast. She said she asked for 5 minutes with each of us the next day and kind of had her goodbye. And I got to, you know, tell her how it's not fair and tell her how I'm not ready and I'm too young to not have a mom. I need her. She's my person. I need my person. And her big thing was, I love you more.
Yeah.
That was her big thing. And I was just like, I can't believe that I'm never gonna hear you say. So she called me and she left me a voicemail right there in the hospital to tell me that she loved me more. And I have that, and I will keep that for forever. Anyway, she chose to go home on hospice. And those were the hardest days of my entire life. The joke now within my family is that my dad has to die in his sleep. Because we can't do that again. Yeah. And I know for someone who, like, that is not, I don't mean that in an offensive way.
No, I know
at all.
I'm unoffendable. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or for anybody listening, like, I get that is a whole different kind of hard. But watching somebody that you love so completely, just every day something new was happening. Every day some function was stopped. Every day there was something new, and it's hard to even talk about it, honestly, because it was just so hard. It was okay for a while. She was talking for a while. She wasn't herself, but I mean, she was talking for a while, and we would see little spurts of her little sassiness, you know, whatever. And then the Saturday before she passed was when she had what they all say, like that last like big energy burst. And she kept saying that she was running late. Hurry, we need to hurry and like get me up. She was trying to get up, and she was talking about, don't make me eat spaghetti. And we're like, you don't have to eat spaghetti. Like, it was just and then from then on, it was harder, and we had to do things that she told us in the hospital. She's like, you guys are going to see some things that you're never going to be able to unsee. And my goodness, was that true? Caring for anybody, like caregiving, period. So hard and so not talked about. And so, but final stages is just, so. Takes
special people.
It really, really does.
Really does.
And I did not feel like I was one of those special people. Yeah. There were several things that I was just like, Jody, I know you're my sister, but I need you to be a nurse and do this right now, because I can't do what needs to be done here. Like, I can't do this with my mom. I can't do it. And love her heart. Again, you would just watch her. You would just watch her switch. And then she would go into the other room and just sob, because she knew what she was seeing was, you know, all the signs. But man, it's amazing how she's able to do that. I guess you have to learn how to do that, but how to kind of compartmentalize when you're in the medical field like that. But anyway, it was unbelievable to watch it with my sister. And then the last night was most certainly the hardest night. I spent every night that I could there. I was in Maryland for a month. I was in Maryland for a
I
month.
remember that. Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that Harmony gave me like, go, like, don't even, we don't go, do it. You don't need to turn off your email. Like, just go. Okay. And then my broker, Emily, she was able to take over all my real estate stuff. Of course, I had to close it. I had stuff going on because that's just the way it goes. So I had one conversation pretty much with Emily, and then Emily handled it and just said, be with your family, be with your mom. So I'm really thankful for that. But I was there, and because my family, my husband and my son, was only there for about a week in the beginning. Mom got to say goodbye to Peyton before she stopped talking, which was like,
Aw.
I really think she was waiting for him. I really think she was.
Yeah.
She said, my buddy. And I was just like, and then you know what my son said in all of his wise words? You're going to die soon, Mimi.
Oh.
And I wanted to throw up. I was so embarrassed,
Yeah.
and I was so mad at him. And he said, I am, buddy, but it's okay. It's okay. And they had that moment, and so I apologized to my mom later, and she was like, Leah, your son said what everybody else already knows.
Yeah.
So anyway, I really do think she was holding out for that. But yeah, after about a week, Scott had to get back to work. So I stayed. And so I spent as many nights as I could there. And then when things were getting really bad and we knew like they came back and were there for the funeral and stuff. But the last night was a night that I don't think I'll ever forget because I was begging and pleading with the Lord to just take her home. Stop. Like, this is the best woman that I have ever known. Why does dying have to be like this? Why there's nothing else I can do for her. You know, we're trying to keep her comfortable. We're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing. And there was nothing we could do. And I praying that prayer repeatedly, begging, unless you've gone through that, it's the weirdest thing because you don't want it to happen, but you do at the same time.
We usually have prayers for keep our loved ones here,
Right.
even when they're suffering,
right?
You know,
and don't get me wrong, like there were definitely times that I was praying for a miracle and sure, of course, but at that point, she was not. It was not good. So my dad was able to fall asleep, which was great. That's part of the reason why I was there because I had to take care of my dad too. You know. I felt like I needed to take care of my dad. He probably will listen to this and be like, you didn't need to take care of me. But I did. I felt like I needed to take care of him because it was a lot. That's 24/7 care is a lot. It's medication every 3 to 4 hours, depending on what medication it is. And it's a lot. So anyway, so my dad's asleep, but his phone was on. I guess he had fallen asleep playing a game or something like that. And so I was hearing this really weird noise, which to me sounded like and I thought it was like some stupid commercial or something on his game. So eventually I get up off the couch and I go over to the chair and the phone's not making any noise. I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'll just turn it off. And I'm still hearing this noise. And I'm like, okay, that's so weird. So I just go back to the couch and I'm like getting ready. I'm texting my husband and I'm like, hey, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think I hear angels. He's like, maybe you do.
Scott's like, what?
And why don't you just go to bed? And I'm like, okay. So I heard it. I mean, I walked around the house trying to look for it. Mom was on oxygen 24/7. And so and it was a big, loud, noisy one. So there was the, constant. And so I was like, maybe I'm hearing the machinery and I'm starting to lose it a little. I've been here in the same four walls for a minute.
Sure.
I went to bed and woke up when it was time. I had to set an alarm for medication so that I woke up when the alarm went off and Dad was already awake and was helping her. So I went right back to sleep. And then I woke up about 7, I guess. And I looked over at it because, of course, like you just constantly watch their chest to see if they're breathing. It's just something you constantly are doing.
Yeah.
And so I wake up and I'm looking there towards the end. I mean, she would go like 60 seconds without breathing, so you're just like holding your own breath the whole time. And so I don't see anything happening. And then my dad comes in and he was like, yeah, it's taken a really, really long time this morning, Leah. And at that point, like the tears are just flowing. I was like, Dad, she's gone. He's like, no, she's not gone. I was like, okay. So we go over and we're sitting there and we're watching. And the nurse had said, hospice nurses,
Bless them. Yeah.
I don't know what to even say. They were so kind and helpful. But anyway, there were really hard things. And there were times that I was pissed at the whole process. I'll be very transparent there. But anyway, it was just amazing. So she had told us that 3 minutes was the longest that she had ever seen somebody not breathe and then breathe again.
3 minutes.
Which again, like you're very close to the end at that point, but
Yeah.
okay.
That's a lifetime.
So I watched for 5 minutes and she didn't breathe. And so then Dad and I looked at each other and, and so then I had to make phone calls that were saying she's gone. It's like, about 6 weeks prior, I had called and said, Mom was diagnosed. And then, so the 19th is when I told them that she was diagnosed. And then, no, that's not true. It was 4 weeks after. It was 2 weeks after I came back that it happened. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The timing is all a blur anyway. But I had to tell all my siblings that she was gone, and had a moment of like, my goodness. People are going to think I'm crazy, but maybe I did. Maybe I was hearing angels. I don't know what I was hearing, but I know that was the night that I was begging the Lord to take her. Yeah. Please just bring her home. She's a faithful woman. She knows where she was going. She had zero fear about that. She did not want to be in pain. She did not want to be uncomfortable, but she had zero fear in where she was going. So the same night that I was begging, that prayer was the same night that I heard the angels and was her last night. So
I believe you heard angels.
I don't know. Again, people can think whatever they want to think, but it was just the beginning of the hardest time of my life. I went into Operation Get Stuff Done. So we were gonna plan the best darn. She wanted a celebration of life. She did not want a funeral. She wanted a celebration of life. She wanted outdoors. She wanted all her favorite people together. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make it happen. So I just moved right into that and into like helping clean out some stuff in the house and stuff. And then that day was over, and I'm coming back to Knoxville and having to leave my dad alone. And I'm just like, what is the point in all of this? Like, it just felt I felt very angry that this is how death has to be. Sure. Like, or that it was this way for my mom. Like, if anybody deserved to just go peacefully and not in pain, is the angel that was my mom. I mean, listen, she wasn't perfect. None of us are. But like, she did so much for so many. She was amazing. And the fact that it had to be like that was I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. And so a lot of if I even prayed, a lot of my prayers were things like, I don't really know what to say to you, so I'm going to tell, but I know that your word is true. So I'm going to tell you the things that I know to be true, because the Bible tells me it's true. And that's that you love me and that you're not going to leave me and that you're my fortress and you're my hope. And that, like, literally, that was literally, and then I'd be like, amen.
Amen.
And that was literally all I could do. It was, at the time, it felt like I was almost being like a brat or something. But now, like, hindsight looking back, I think that that's probably the best way I could have showed up in that moment. It was as real and as raw as it could be. Yeah. But it was me at that moment, knowing that I needed him, but like also not really wanting him. Yeah. If I'm being transparent, like, no, and I would, we would go to church and I would cry through the whole thing. And I don't know. It was not the spiritual part of it was very, very hard because I was like, I just don't understand why it has to be that. Like, if we're made in your image, why do we have to die like that? Like, it was just so horrible. And I had the negative mind frame of like, I can't believe I'm going to someday do this to my kid, whether it's cancer or not, irrelevant. Yeah. Like, I am going to break my son at some point like this. Hopefully it's when I'm a very old lady. But that was really, really hard. And still is, honestly, some days. Just anger with everyone. Like anger that the lady in front of me at the pharmacy, she was like in her 80s and she had a portable oxygen unit, and how dare she be alive with a portable oxygen unit when my mom was, in her mid 60s and should be the one on like literally stupid things like that. An old couple holding hands. Fury. Someone, and I'm embarrassed about this, but someone who like lost their mom when their mom was like 90 and they're like miserable about it. And I'm like, you knew she was going to die. Like that's literally the kind of stuff that went through. And I know it sounds
No, I think
terrible.
the same thing when people are like so sad about
terrible.
their
Judge
parents
me
dying.
away.
No.
Judge me away.
When I have friends who share on Facebook their parents died in their 90s or pushing 100, I'm just like, lucky you. Lucky
yes.
you. I was 29 and had to plan my mother's funeral.
Right.
And the way she died was very traumatic.
Awful.
And so I'm just like, that's a blessing. So when people complain about getting older, and for me, I'm like, I don't remember what age I am, because anytime I'm on this side of heaven, I am blessed.
So true.
So I'm not judging you because I 100% get it. I mean, to this day, I'm just like, I pray that Aaron and I are here 35 years from now doing silly dances together and that my cancer doesn't come back. I mean, I understand where you are.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think grief, people also feel like there should be like an expiration or something for grief. Like, like you should, it's going to get better. And I'm like,
isn't.
I think what it gets is more tolerable. Like you just know that you have to keep living because what's the alternative? I mean, right? Like, so I just keep living my life and it gets more tolerable. It maybe gets easier if that's really the right word, but I really don't think it's that. It's just that you just learn how to move forward without your person.
Yeah.
But I still have moments almost every day where I go to pick up my phone and I'm like, I mean, because she's the one, like Peyton's acting a fool. She's the one who would be like, you were chosen for him. You are equipped to handle whatever is thrown your way. If you don't have the skills, you will do what's, she was just one of those big time cheerleaders that just made it feel like she was always in my corner.
Yeah.
We didn't always agree. It wasn't perfect, but like she was my person.
Sure.
And so now something happens and I'm like, who am I calling? Like, what am I doing? That's been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge.
Rediscovering that person has been the hardest thing for me.
Oh,
because
you're not replacing that person.
You're not. But you're rediscovering when it's like who?
Yeah,
like who is that? Like who's the person? Like I used to call and like he was so encouraging. And always tell me like no matter what I was going through that I was bigger than that. Like that like it wasn't always going to be this way and I could do anything and I could be anyone. And it's like you kind of lose that anchor, so to speak.
100%.
You lose it, and it's not easily replaceable. It's like a voice that's been in your head for 30 something years, and then all of a sudden, like it's gone, and you have to. I don't even know what the word is. Like I'm still like I was just like, it's just like finding yourself, like rediscovering who that person is. And if you want it to be somebody else, you get so angry because they're not that person.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have like...
They're not going to do it that way.
They have nuances of it. And you'd be like, he would never.
Yeah, right.
But...
So yes. So much yes.
Yeah.
So much yes.
But it's discovering like who is that voice, because it's like it's something that I need. Like it's something that I need.
Yeah.
And it's a necessity. And a lot of things that I've been like halted from moving forward or from putting myself out there, like, so that encourages like, just do it. Who cares? Like, you're going to be great. Anything you do, you'll be great at. And like, just hearing that and not having that. And I'm not saying that I don't have that in other people. Incredibly supportive wife, wonderful mother, stepfather, surrogate spiritual mother. Like I have people, but there's just something different about me, you looking into the face of your son in your eyes, or hearing that. It's just like, it's going to be okay. And when that's gone, I can find myself wondering, like, okay, like, I get that, but how? and when?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
when?
Yeah.
Like, how long?
Yeah.
That was my whole thing with the
Yes.
whole like church cancel culture. Is like, are you still on this?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I
have you
definitely
grieved
feel
like
that.
past tense? I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
No.
grieving.
it's like,
Right.
Process of.
Yes.
I-
Yes.
I have lots of words for you.
Right. Right.
But
I think it's just so uncomfortable for people. That's another thing I think I would love for people to hear is that you don't have to say the right thing.
you don't have to say anything.
You don't have to
Yeah.
buy anything.
Mhm.
You don't have to just show up.
Just be there.
Just show up, and I'm sorry, even is fine.
Yeah.
A hug, even better. But just sit with me.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the friends that I am most thankful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the people who just sat with me. That doesn't mean that you don't need doers. You need doers who are
Sure.
gonna schedule meal tray, whatever. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna need those people. But man, the friends that just randomly text me to tell me that they love me or that they hope that I have a good day or they're thinking about me,
Yeah.
that
Well, that's like
that is everything.
literally in the last month, like this month. I don't know what it is about it, but it's like this last month. It's like I finally feel like I've got a support circle. Like I've got people
Oh, good.
that I don't have to be like, "Are you thinking about me?"
Yeah. No one
like-
loves me today.
Like someone like.
Oh, that's so real though. No one loves me
yeah.
today. That is
No.
so real.
I know.
It's like-
That is so real.
I don't know if it was 2 or 3. I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago or something like that. And we've just it's been a really weird health month for our whole entire household. But it's like I was talking to her about something with real estate related, and like I get a phone call at like 6:30, and I was like, or 7:30. It was later, but I was, and she was like, "Hey, I noticed that you sounded different, and I wanted to make sure that you were okay."
Aw.
And I just like started crying.
My surprised face.
I know. I know. But I was just like, I was telling my wife, I was just like, I finally,
So
like,
sweet,
I
though.
finally
Yeah.
think I have like a support group that like, that reciprocates that I feel like the support is reciprocated. Like, I don't feel like I know blind deaf mute people know that I would do anything for anybody in my circle. It's like, oh, you're moving, you're in California. All right, well, I'll drive the truck wherever. Like, it's just
So sweet.
it's like just
Yeah.
I've always been that way.
Yeah.
And now I've got to look at the rolling eyes and be like, you're not going to California and driving the truck back from somewhere. I was like, I was just saying,
I
like,
mean-
I know you weren't just saying. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's
just you don't need to share a story about when you lost someone. You don't need
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh man, when we were
and
trying
God,
to
please don't try to one up me.
get, no.
No.
And please don't. Because I still am going to think that my situation's worse than yours. It's
Yeah.
going to be true. You
I
can try to
know,
win,
but-
and I'm still going to think I'm worse, which is terrible. But that's a part of the grieving process, is making it feel like what you're experiencing is the worst thing that has ever happened.
You know, it's like 7 stages in 17 and a half years.
In like 17 seconds sometimes. But man, when we were trying to get pregnant, people would say things like, just drink a bottle of wine and see what happens. And we're like, do you think we haven't tried that? My favorite was, well, maybe you guys just aren't supposed to be parents.
Jesus.
Oh, people have the audacity to say that.
And
And
so
Leah,
you-
you didn't smack them. Seriously. Oh my God.
It got to the point where I just got really good at coming back with like uncomfortable questions. Like, so if people would be like, why don't you guys have children? I'd be like, well, what color underwear are you wearing? And they'd be like, why are you asking me that? I'm like, that's the same way that I feel. Like,
None
don't
of your
ask.
business.
So
Yeah.
I guess
That's funny.
if that's another thing I can tell people is that like, just show up and just be quiet.
Yeah.
Which coming from me says a lot because I am never quiet. But like, just be there. Just be there. If you can just be there, that is going to be I had friends that I haven't spoken to from high school that showed up for me.
Yeah.
I have friends that had always been there, but just showed up in a totally different way.
Yeah.
I was thankful to have friends who also lost their parents or a parent member, one of their parents
Sure.
to lung cancer,
Mhm.
because that was really what did it for mom. And so it was like to be able to have somebody say like, you're counting the breaths, you're waiting, and they knew what I was
yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
was just a whole nother, or just going through hospice with a parent, like just that, like that was, even though I still felt like what I was going through was the worst thing in the entire world, there was still something really powerful about like, but they made it, but they're okay.
Yeah.
But they're okay.
Mhm.
And so I was very with my, oh gosh, I keep touching this. Sorry guys, it's probably going to be like bang. I was very open with my closest friends about the experience. I was very detailed, much more detailed than I were here with those last days. And they were just like, thank you, because you're the first one in our group to go through this. And we are seeing you wake up every day and get out of bed most days. And like you are showing us that we can do it. And I was like, well, hellfire, because that is exactly the way that I was feeling about my friends who were doing it for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be death. It can be a scary diagnosis. It can be whatever it is. Like, just show up. Just show up. Just show up.
Yeah, you don't have to have the right words
No.
to say. Just
No.
sit there.
You really don't. In fact, when you start trying to talk, you're probably going to regret it. At least that's my
Yeah.
2 cents in it. So if that's something that I could make clear to people, is if you've got somebody that's struggling, that's grieving, that's whatevering.
I think it's more than that. I think if you have anybody, like, this is a practice that we've kind of put into place over the last probably 2 or 3 years. It's like, if I'm thinking about somebody, like randomly, I will call I will call
100%.
them like right there,
100%.
or I will text them, and I just
Yep.
be like,
Same.
you know what? I don't know. Like, I saw a billboard and it reminded me, you know,
Same.
of a picture of you in high school. So I was just wondering if, you know,
Yeah.
how are you? And
Yes.
and
So
like
good.
just acting on there's, I think it comes to your mind for a reason, right? So just,
100%.
just
Yeah.
just the fact that it's just like, oh, like, I haven't seen this person in 10 years, and then you know, you just reach out on Facebook or social media or whatever.
Yep.
Like, text them old number. If they don't have it anymore, you'll find out real quick.
No, it's so true. And then how many times, at least for me, they've been like, oh, well, like this happened. No wonder I was on your mind. And I'm like, what? That's so crazy, you know? So 100%, I believe that especially, I need to do better at it, because I am receiving therapy, which, hallelujah, thank you for my therapist.
Sure.
I'm also on medication, and I'm not afraid to say that. Do what you need to do for yourself and for your family. That's the only reason why I'm able to do this right now, is
Yeah.
because I am medicated.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's a joke, but not really,
Yeah.
because seriously, I wasn't able to function. I was not functioning. But when I first met my my therapist, she was like, how old were you when you were diagnosed with ADHD? And I said, today. Like, what are you talking about?
Just now?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Today's your old.
Y'all.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's been a whole, but part of what I struggle with the ADHD is responding to text messages, because I respond in my head.
I respond in my head.
And then by the time I realize what I've done, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a week ago. And they probably hate me. So I'm not going to send anything. So just responding whenever I think, even if it's just like thinking of you with a heart. I'm really trying hard to do that. But yeah, that's made grieving even more interesting. It's because my mom had ADHD, and one of the things she told me before she passed was, there's a lot more of me in you than you realize. So you need to talk to somebody. And I was like, oh no. But I never, because when you're grieving, when you need a therapist the most is when you don't have any energy to do it. So thankfully my doctor did it for me. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But that thankfully my doctor connected me with a therapist, and the rest is history. But yeah, so that's been fun. There are things that literally the way that I'm made that are just difficult for me to follow through with. And I can it's hard to make decisions. It's hard to remember things. It's hard to be motivated. And so when you also add that in with being very sad. And grieving, it's really hard.
Can get dark.
Can get really dark. Not to mention a head injury that happened in 2022, which resulted in a concussion, which also is depression is very closely tied together with that. So needless to say, this, I feel like I'm finally doing what I need to be doing for myself, but I still won't sleep through the night. I still wake up between the grieving hours of 3 to 5. I don't know if you guys knew that, but if you wake up between 3 and 5, that's usually because that's the grieving hours of waking
I
up.
always wake up between those hours.
There you go. 3 and 5. Yep. Still do that even when I'm medicated.
I was like, even when I have my melatonin 20 milligrams, my 3 tart cherries, I can have my sleepy time tea, and I will still wake up between 3 and 5.
Google it. You will be shocked.
I don't need to go down another
Go
rabbit
down the
hole,
rabbit
Leah.
hole.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go, rabbit hole.
It's a very real thing. It has something to do with the cycle of your sleep.
Okay.
Anyway, so I am not, again, like as we already talked, I'm not done grieving. I mean, you're not ever done grieving. I
think
don't
you're
feel
ever
like it
done.
just changes, but it's easier now to make it through the day and to actually feel like I'm allowed to feel joy and pleasure and laugh and have a good day even. But my favorite thing, I don't know if you guys said this or somebody else said this, is how are you doing today? How are you doing today? Because just saying, how are you doing? I'm like,
I think it might have been this one that said that.
Did
I think
you
it
say
might have
that?
been Gentry.
That has like stuck with me. And that's now what I ask people, because how are you doing is just so, what do you mean?
Do you want the whole story?
Life
How
is
much time do you
short.
have?
Yeah, like, right? Let's get philosophical here. I mean, so how are you doing today is a really big one. And I even asked myself that. I even asked myself that question. So anyway.
Well, Leah, how are you doing today to wrap up? You have shared, and we knew this would not be a short conversation
This wasn't
because
gonna
you're
be
so
15 minutes. We got that.
you're so easy to talk to, and
Because I ran the show. I'm sorry. I didn't let y'all talk very
this
much.
is your
Apologize.
story. This is your
I didn't
story.
let y'all talk very much.
No. I mean, we knew you'd be very easy to talk to, and just the way you share what is very traumatic experiences, there's a light about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
But how are you doing today to wrap up this episode featuring Lea Bradley?
I am doing pretty good, really. I'm thankful, and we added a little niece to the family. Her name is Sophie Joe after my mama. Sophie after my dad's mom, and Joe after my mom. And so she's so much fun to get to experience. I'm going to go visit her here in a few weeks. And I have alone time with my husband or with my son this weekend because my husband's out of town. So I'm trying to make that special. And I'm just feeling grateful to be healthy. And so, and hopefully today, I think today was a big part, especially in sharing about my mom. I'm very open about the infertility stuff, but I haven't really gone there very much with my mom. So I just hope that this is helpful for somebody and that people know that they're not alone and that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Don't pretend you're not feeling it, because you'll get it'll find you. It'll find you
Grief will meet you at
in
your
a little
door.
way or a big way, and that you're not alone. And of course, I'm willing to talk to anybody. So
Yes.
anybody has any questions or whatever, you can find me, and I'll be happy to chat. So that's how I am feeling. Grateful for you guys giving me the opportunity and just to be in the headspace and in the health that I'm in today.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I will tell you something I never mentioned before. You know, when you were sharing, this might have been 2 years ago or so, you were like in your little, what I was like, oh, she's at a spa. I knew that now. I know that you were getting a mammogram and just getting your boobs squished.
I was.
And it was because of your mom's diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I think back, I'm like, how I wished I would have gotten tested knowing my mom had breast cancer at 49 and at 30.
Yeah.
What I would have given to know about my genetic mutation. But it was because of you that when Malcolm kicked me and I felt my lump, I was like, I should probably go ASAP to get this checked out.
Yeah.
Like, just you sharing, that's the power of social media, is sharing of
It can be
stories.
powerful. Yeah.
And the people that are vulnerable help the world so much more.
Right.
So thank you.
You're welcome. I just sent in my blood work for genetic testing. My doctor was like, after he heard what happened to mom, and it came back a fourth time, he's like, yeah, we're going to need to test your DNA.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So we'll see. I should know in a few weeks about that. But yeah, no, we got to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we are lucky, to have, like, we're going to be more proactive than certainly than our mothers,
Yes.
right? They did, you
Yeah.
know. So it's one of those like blessings and a curse. Like I wish that my mom never had to be that strong. I wish that I didn't have to be that strong to deal with all the aftermath of all of that. But part of it is that it's really put a fire under my little rear end to like just stay on top of those things and to do what I need to do and talk to my doctor. Like talk to your doctor. If you're under 35, it'll be very hard to get a mammogram approved by insurance. But if you're 35 or older and you have the risk, like you can get it approved. It can happen.
Yeah. And
It's
if that
happening
doctor
for
won't
me.
do it, you
Find
go to another
somebody
one.
else. Yeah, find somebody else.
Yeah. Be your own advocate for sure.
Having that baseline, and I never breastfed a baby, so like that, I never gave birth. That increased my risk. There's just too much. There's just too much to not be on top of it. So I guess that's another thing I can say is be on top of it. But I'm glad that in a small way, I had something to do with you getting the care that you needed. I sure wish that you didn't have to go through it either, but here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Made it through.
You made it through. Breaking barriers and stuff.
It is what it is literally how I say everything. And I'm like, I'm not trying to diminish. It happened. And we don't sink in the couch and cry and eat Cheetos.
Well, you're allowed to do that for like a day.
Yeah, I know. But then you got to figure out, okay, what's next?
Right.
So,
Yes.
but Leah, thank you so
You're
much
so
for sharing
welcome.
with us.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Your personality and light, and even in the face of such traumatic experiences, is going to touch the hearts of a lot of people. So
I hope so. I appreciate you guys, and I love that you're doing this. Keep on doing it.
we will.
We will.
What was the timer for Gentry crying? We had a bet. What was it, like 15 minutes in?
Yeah, it started around the infertility stuff, so I don't know.
I didn't even look his way at that point.
For no reason whatsoever.
I know. I tried to just focus on Brittany because I was like, I'm doing so good. Look at me. I'm not crying. I'm doing so good. I'm not going to look at Gentry. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 16 of Barrier Breakers. We'll see you again soon.